There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
You know what? What can one of these quarterbacks or wide receivers do for me this year to make a wager? It's got to be the running conditions there for Jaden Daniels.
In regards to Jaden Daniels, you know I was on him in regards to the Heisman Trophy. I actually think he's going to do it on the ground, through the air. 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, playing in Cliff Kingsbury's offense where he wants to spread it and throw it. I think he's going to put up dynamic numbers.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome in a very happy Friday to you. It is Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we get ready for a huge weekend in college basketball. The calm before the storm, of course. We got one football game that remains to be played. That'll be a week from this Sunday in New Orleans. However, big week coming up. When it comes to that, as we'll be live on location, the SportsGrid Network, live from New Orleans there on Radio Row, bringing you all the latest information on a daily basis leading up to the kickoff, of course, for the big LIX Super Bowl. And the more and more we dive into this game, the more and more it really does appear to be a coin flip game, and it's going to come down to ultimately which team makes, well, that one mistake. And that seems to be all it takes these days, although both of these teams have done an amazing job of not committing those mistakes in the second half of the season. It's going to come down to, and dare I say, kickers. Oh, nobody wants that in the NFL, but we got a lot, and I mean a lot to cover from now until next Sunday before this game kicks off. In the meantime, as we have another calm before the storm, and that being college basketball craziness tomorrow as we kick off the month of February with 146 games on Saturday. So only 14 games on the final card of January, that being tonight here on the 31st. But we do have some intriguing matchups here. We've got a lot of mid-majors going on, but we will, of course, have a game or two that sticks out. Butler and Georgetown coming up a little bit later here. In fact, bottom of this hour at 6:30. Dayton, St. Louis is another one of interest. So we do have, of these 14 games here tonight, we do have some games that, well, are going to mean a lot to some of these lower conference teams. And we will get you caught up with all of it as we move along here. Bigger night in the NBA tonight, 7 games altogether on the slate. Kicking off at the top of next hours, we'll have the Clippers taking on the Charlotte Hornets. Stop me if you've heard this, but LaMelo Ball's hurt again. Yeah, there's a shocker. That is also the biggest spread on the card here tonight, is the Clippers laying 2 touchdowns, just about 2 touchdowns, on the road against Charlotte. And then you've got, of course, if they have enough duct tape and Elmer's glue, Dallas is taking on Detroit in Detroit in a pick'em contest there. That should be interesting as Dallas just came off of a big win on the road against New Orleans. And once again, they were shorthanded like they will continue to be until they can at least get Luka Doncic back and healthy. Derek Lively out for the year. So Dallas trying to hold it together. Can they do it on the road against the young upstart Detroit tonight? Again, pick 'em price there in Detroit. And then you have the suddenly red-hot Philadelphia 76ers. And boy, oh boy, what are they? Winners of 4 in a row. However, still no Paul George, no Embiid. It's really the Tyrese Maxey show. But I got to give this 76ers team credit. They have been absolutely, a lot of people have stuck a fork in this Sixers team, and rightfully so here. The injuries, they spent an awful lot of money on 3 guys that have played maybe a handful of games together all year. Injuries continue to be an issue for them, but they've been playing some pretty solid basketball. The problem is they're going to welcome in a Denver Nuggets team where timing is everything when it comes to sports. And if I'm the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm winner of 4 straight. I'm starting to play some quality basketball. And normally when we get the Denver Nuggets coming into our building, it's probably like, oh boy, here we go. It's going to be all about the Joker and all about Embiid. Well, you don't have Embiid. And quite honestly, what good has the Joker done the Denver Nuggets as they are coming in here on a 3-game losing streak? Not playing great basketball, not shooting the ball very well. And once again, at this time of the year, and it's the thing that has concerned us all about this Denver Nuggets team, is the depth, the lack of shooting. And what happens when they don't play any defense? Well, teams drop a whole lot of points on them, and it makes it very difficult for them to get back in games. So there are some concerns with this Denver Nuggets team here tonight. Could we be looking at a 4th straight loss for the champs here? They are on the road. I'm not sure about laying 9.5 points with the way they are currently playing. It's a very long road trip here for Denver, but they have been less than stellar. And say what you want, might be a little shorthanded, but the Philadelphia 76ers are playing some quality basketball here. Good enough, of course, to be able to ride a 4-game streak there. And keep in mind, no Paul George, no Caleb Martin, no KJ Martin, no Jared McCain, but they do have Eric Gordon. And boy, oh boy, has he stepped up in a big way. Him and Tyrese Maxey carrying this team. Feels like we might be looking at an over at some point here tonight as well. And then you have the single hottest team in the NBA. No, it's not the Oklahoma City Thunder. No, it's not the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's the Toronto Raptors. That is right. Scotty Barnes and company here. The Toronto Raptors, what a lot of people don't realize is they have been hurt for the majority of the season, which is why they were so bad for so long to start the year. And a lot of folks, again, just kind of looked past them and said, nope, this is not a team I can get behind. But here they are, the healthiest that they have been. And as you can see, not a bad basketball team, as they have managed to rattle off a whole bunch of wins here now. They are laying a short number against the Chicago Bulls, who are still dealing with some injuries and some concerns there. Obviously, Zach LaVine, is he staying? Is he going? Are they dismantling Chicago? Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be sleeping on Toronto. This line opened up at 2.5 for Toronto. It has been bet up to 4.5. So the money is coming in. I think folks in the market are starting to finally realize the Toronto Raptors, not the laughing stock that they once were just a couple of months ago. So that is going to be actually a pretty interesting game. And does anybody want to lay double digits on the road with the Boston Celtics? Anybody? Bueller? No? Good. I don't blame you. That is a absolutely losing proposition. It has been all year. Not that Boston should have a problem beating a New Orleans team that can't get out of its own way, riding a 4-game losing streak. However, laying double digits with Boston and trusting them with not only Philadelphia, but I believe Cleveland coming up next, not quite sure the effort we're going to get here from the Boston Celtics tonight. Might be worth grabbing Zion and those double-digit points with the home dog here tonight against the Celtics. But we'll talk a lot more about the NBA. We'll have the coach swing by here coming up, get his thoughts on this card tonight. Again, one game underway right now in college basketball. We do have a couple of NHL games. We'll talk about those a little bit later. And we will get ready, of course, for a huge weekend in college sports, especially in basketball. We'll have much more on it as Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on a Friday. We appreciate you stopping by here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, and I say it all the time. If you leave the studio door open long enough, you never have any idea what's going to walk through there. And wouldn't you know it, we left the studio door open, and we get the one and only, the coach, JY, James Young, in the house, stepping in here. And why not? We got a pretty, it's a light card, great card tomorrow, over 140 games in college hoops there, Coach. We got 14 tonight, and the biggest game on the card here tonight, I think, is going to be the Purdue matchup, which, I mean, let's face it, Purdue, no Zach Edey, No problem. They seem to have figured some things out there. Brandon Smith is an absolute beast. And how long before you're interviewing for the Indiana head coaching job there, Coach? I'm just curious. There are rumors circulating here, my man. So what do you think of this game tonight?
Well, first things first, I was talking to my buddy Jeff Goodman, Goody, and I texted him. And I sent him an interesting quote. I said, who gets fired first? I think it was it was Mike Woodson, it was Kyle Neptune, and it was Hubert Davis. I said, who gets fired first? And he said it, and I agree. If Indiana does not make the tournament, he's getting fired. They missed their mark last year, Joe, because they want to keep it in the family, but they were being respectful because the general passed away. But they could have got Dusty May. Look what he's doing already at Michigan, and that's an Indiana guy. So now you're not going to get Dusty May if you want to keep it in the family. But when you look at this game, Purdue should roll this game. I mean, they scored 91 points last game against Michigan. They're playing really good basketball. Brady Smith and Lawyer are fantastic in the backcourt, right? And Brady Smith is maybe playing as good of any point guard in the country right now, and no one's even talking about it. So I like Purdue minus the points tonight. Indiana, I know they've covered 2 out of the last 3 games, but they're I think 1-4 straight up. And then you're looking at the Purdue team that's at the top of the Big Ten. Go ahead and give me the Purdue Boilermakers minus the points tonight.
Ooh, taking on Purdue. All right. And only you, Coach, would come on here talking about the Golden Griffins and the Purple Eagles. The way I understand it, Coach, and maybe I'm wrong here, but somebody actually has to win this game, right? So I believe that we have to pick either Niagara or Canisius in this one. And I don't know about you, but I don't know in what world can we bet Canisius. Although they did beat Fairfield, and I'm not really sure if that counts or not. But what are we doing in this game tonight?
Well, another thing really quick about the Purdue game is look at Purdue's team total over. I think it's about 77.5. I think that's something to get up and over with the way they scored the ball. Indiana's out playing really great defense. On to it's Friday night. So it's a Maction night. So I'm going to go with the rivalry game. Pretty close. Niagara, Canisius. Obviously, I'm familiar with both schools from my time at Monmouth. And to me, I'm looking at Niagara minus the points. It is a rivalry game, right? They're rivals because everybody's got to go up there and play them. But I know that neither team is great against the spread as of late. Niagara's 1-4 against the spread as of late. Canisius not the same thing, 1-4. But then you start lining up like opponents here and how they've done. Canisius got absolutely rolled by Marist. They lost by 9 at home to Sacred Heart. Look at Niagara, and they lost Sacred Heart as well. But Niagara also had a game where they took a team they beat Marist. Folks, Marist may be the best team in the MAC. John Dunn's done a great job. So when you start lining up teams against the spread, you go with the team that you think is better. It's a short trip. Give me Niagara minus the points on the road.
Yeah, well, I took Marist and the Foxes tonight over Siena, too, because I think that they should roll them in that one as well, Coach. All right, so we've got 14 games in college tonight, but we do have a pretty good slate in the NBA. And the hottest team in the NBA is on the court here tonight. It's not OKC. It's not Cleveland. It's the damn Toronto Raptors that won't go away, Coach. They're finally healthy. Do they keep it rolling here?
They do. I like them minus the points tonight. It's 3.5. It's gone up to 4. They've covered their last 5 straight games. They've won them all. They beat Atlanta twice back-to-back in Atlanta. They have a good 16-point win over Orlando, and they're doing a good job. They're starting to get healthy. You mentioned Scotty Barnes is back. RJ Barrett's had a really, really good year. Emmanuel Quickley's looked good. Jakob Poeltl. This team, folks, is playing really good basketball. Give me the Toronto Raptors minus the points tonight.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You can beat the Celtics. I'm pretty sure you can beat the Bulls here tonight. Although what is going on with Denver, Coach? A possible 4-game losing streak is what we'd be looking at if they don't win this game against Philly tonight?
Yeah, and they just are not in a good way. They went into New York and they really tried to take that game to the Knicks, and the Knicks took over in the fourth quarter. But when you look at them tonight, I know people that the spread concerns me, Joe, right? So where am I looking at? I'm looking at the team total over for the Denver Nuggets. If you look at their last couple of games, 112 versus the Knicks, really good defensive team. 121, 104, 132, 144, 113. They're going against the Philadelphia team that gives up points. 117 to Sacramento, that 118 to the Lakers. I think Denver's got to get going. You said it best earlier. Their depth is a problem. Their three-point shooting is another problem. I think to get right, give me the Nuggets on the team total over, and then also give me the Suns on the money line on the road at Golden State. Big matchup. We don't know when Jimmy Butler shows up. I mean, you're down in Miami. You may know better than me, but I do like the Suns on the money line tonight on the road at Golden State.
Is this a tank for Butler? I'm not sure, Coach. I can't figure out the Phoenix Suns. Word on the street, Coach, is that you will be sitting courtside in the Johnny's game tomorrow next to Mr. Patino. Is that correct, Coach? Might we be seeing you on the telecast?
I may be there. I'll be there. I'm not going to root for St. John's because my team is still too tall.
Don't tell anybody, Coach. Enjoy. We appreciate it. Game Time Decisions continues.
There's going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
You know what? What can one of these quarterbacks or wide receivers do for me this year to make a wager? It's got to be the running conditions there for Jaden Daniels.
In regards to Jaden Daniels, you know I was on him in regards to the Heisman Trophy. I actually think he's going to do it on the ground, through the air, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, playing in Cliff Kingsbury's offense where he wants to spread it and throw it. I think he's going to put up dynamic numbers.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Friday to you. I'm Joe Raineri as we get ready for a pretty decent slate of games tonight here in college. But let's not forget, we got plenty of NBA action, plenty of games on the ice in the NHL, and now would be a good time to check in with our friends Joe Madden and Tom Vecchio and see what they've got on tap with their Sports Millions Pick'em. What do you got for us tonight?
Happy Friday, everyone. It's a great day to look at some Sports Millions pick'ems. Now, Tom, we're going to focus on the NBA today. What have you got for us?
Yeah, let's jump into a loaded slate. There's a ton to go through, and I'm going to turn to Cade Cunningham, higher than 27.5 points. He was just named to his first NBA All-Star team. Obviously, well-deserved this year. He is looking great. Solid matchup going up against Dallas, super high total, and more importantly for Cade Cunningham, not just the points are always great on a nightly basis. It comes down to the fact that the field goal attempts are pushing to the mid to high 20s every single night. So he doesn't have to be super, super effective in terms of like he only has a limited amount of shots. He's piling up 25, 28 field goal attempts. Obviously, the primary ball handler, the primary scorer for Detroit. So I will take him coming off this big nomination first All-Star game, higher than 27.5 points tonight.
Okay, let's roll with Cade Cunningham. And then when I look at the matchup tonight that I want to circle, it's the matchup between the Chicago Bulls and the Toronto Raptors. Now, the Toronto Raptors have been rolling hot, winning their last 5. As a fan, it's something I love to say. But also as a bettor, you got to look at a player that has been stepping up. I'm going to take Scotty Barnes higher than 23.5 points. We look at Scotty Barnes here, and while he's only averaging right around 20 points on the season in the last 4 games, 3 of these he's been able to go higher than this number. We saw him in that last game out there versus the Wizards, hit 24 points. And yes, versus the Pelicans, only 21. But in the 2 versus the Atlanta Hawks, we did see 24 and 25 points in both of those games out of him. And when we look here at the Chicago Bulls defense, I don't trust this defense. They allow their opponents to really drive to the bucket, allowing them to shoot from the field 47.1% of the time. And I do think Scotty Barnes on his home court can have a big day. So give me Scotty Barnes higher than 23.5 points for the Toronto Raptors.
Little NBA to close out the week, and we'll be back next week, bouncing back and forth between basketball and hockey.
Yeah, it should be a great week next week. So you guys make sure you join us. Until then, have a great weekend and all the best.
All right, appreciate it there, Joe and Tom. And let's not forget about the NBA as well, because tonight will be a good opportunity for you to jump in on the Sports Millions Blitz'em.
Enjoy Sports Millions pick'ems, but hate making the picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over and play Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/Blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/Blitz'em.
All right, love that. We got a lot of different ways to be able to attack the slate here tonight, not just in the NBA, but college basketball. We also have a couple of NHL games of interest here. Our good friend George Kurtz will stop by. Can't wait to hear what he thinks about his surging New York Islanders as well, by the way. But we got a little something for everybody here tonight, including still to come, an update from Pebble Beach. That's right, the PGA Tour in full swing here. And boy, what a tournament that is turning out to be. And will Scottie Scheffler return to the PGA Tour, his first tournament on the new year? Will it end up with what else? A victory. It feels like it's always a possibility with Scottie Scheffler in the field. Would you be shocked if I told you him and Rory McIlroy doing a little chasing right now? It seems like everyone is within 2 or 3 strokes. We'll give you the full leaderboard there, an update, as our good friend Brady Cannon will stop by the show a little bit later. And we'll see, is there any value maybe with a couple of live bets and jump in to the PGA Tour here as, boy, Pebble Beach, all eyes on the Pro-Am as there. So we've got a little something for everybody here this weekend for us all to jump in. You're in the right spot, though, as Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
You know what? What can one of these quarterbacks or wide receivers do for me this year to make a wager? It's got to be the running conditions there for Jaden Daniels.
In regards to Jaden Daniels, you know I was on him in regards to the Heisman Trophy. I actually think he's going to do it on the ground, through the air, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, playing in Cliff Kingsbury's offense where he wants to spread it and throw it. I think he's going to put up dynamic numbers.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
He had 4 grabs in the first half for just over 30 yards, was injured, came back in briefly, and then had to be carted off.
We were pessimistic on Puka Nakua's injury to the same right knee, of that being a nothing, just a bursa, and that's it, as per Sean McVay. We felt there could be a small PCL component.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions on this Friday on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by. As we get ready, we've got a little more than a dozen college hoops games getting ready, coming up top of the hour to tip off. And then, of course, we do have 7 NBA games. And we've got ourselves a handful of NHL games here tonight. 4 on tap with maybe, just maybe, a couple of opportunities to jump on in. Let's check in with our good friend George Kurtz, who without a doubt has something chalky to deliver to you guys here. And Kurtz, we were just talking, was with Joe Madden yesterday, in fact, and we were talking about your New York Islanders and what a unbelievable turnaround given all the injuries that they have had this season. I mean, well, Sorokin just refuses to be had there in between the pipes, and they are playing some of the best hockey. Can they get healthy enough? Can they add anything? What's the ceiling for this Islanders team now?
Well, I guess the ceiling would be a wild card spot, right? They're not better than the Devils, Carolina. I don't even think they're better than the Rangers, by the way. Rangers are another team to really watch out for now. They've figured out their problems as well. So their ceiling is a wild card spot, and I guess if everything went well, maybe they win a round, but that's probably not going to happen. You win a wild card spot, it means you're going to play Florida or the Carolina Devils first round. The Islanders don't match up with either one of those. You mentioned a lot of injuries on defense, right? Pulak's out, Dobson's out, Riley's out. That's 3 of your top 6. Yet they've survived. All right, they've survived. I'm not a Lou Lamoriello guy. I think the game has passed him by, but he keeps he's patching that defense together with glue, duct tape. As it is, he picked up Boquist today, who was released by Florida. Not that Boquist is fantastic, but he is an NHL defenseman. He'll help the Islanders there. Traded for Perunovic from St. Louis earlier this week. And to let you know how desperate Lou is, signed Tony DeAngelo about a couple of days before that. DeAngelo, who's been let go from several teams because let's just say he's a locker room cancer pretty much there. But he is, once again, he's a guy who can play in the NHL if he can just control his behavior there. So, listen, you and I talked during the break. Sorokin's got a .975 save percentage somehow over the past, 7-8 games here. He's played outstanding. And if your goalie's not letting in goals, you're going to win hockey games. Islanders will be tested this weekend, though. They play in your Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning on the Florida trip.
Yeah, we're going to learn a little something about him for sure. Tonight, though, some interesting matchups getting ready. Top of the hour here. Nashville taking on Buffalo. Two, I don't know, bottom dwellers really trying to work their way out of this. I think both teams have, 43 points on the season. Buffalo last in the Eastern Conference. Nashville third from last in the West. Something's got to give here, Kurtz. What are we looking at tonight?
Nashville is likely your biggest disappointment this season. I mean, you make the trade for Stamkos, right? You sign Martin Marchessault from the Golden Knights. You expect big things. Trotz went for it, all right? And it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. And maybe it takes time to gel, but it just hasn't worked out. I keep looking here because this is one of the few games tonight. There's only 4, but one of the few games when neither team has announced their starting goaltender, although it is expected that Justice Anunen, not Saros, is going to play net for them. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, my favorite name in the NHL, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, is expected to start for the Buffalo Sabres. Joe, generally when I think Sabres, I think over. But when I think Predators, I think under. But, when I'm seeing Anunen in net and not Saros, I want to go over. I think this game's going to go over here. You're getting the better price there. It's really pretty much the same either way here. But over is minus 112, under minus 108. I'm going to go the over here. You mentioned I am Mr. Chalk here. Chalk did not pay off last night as the public parlay did not hit in the late games there as Vegas and Edmonton both lost those games there. So we're going to go the other direction here. Listen, I would have gone the other direction anyway. But I'll take the plus money with Buffalo. I think it's a pretty even game. Give me the plus money, plus 105 Buffalo Sabres.
I love that. Yeah, somebody's got to win the game. I mean, I guess that's good news if you're a Nashville or Buffalo fan here. What about two teams that seem to have righted the ship here a little bit? Vancouver and Dallas tonight. Looks like Vancouver riding, a 3-game winning streak against Dallas here. Dallas has been pretty good. It's Ottinger in goal. It's Demko finally back for Vancouver. 5.5, Kurtz. Are we looking at an under? Is this an old-fashioned, old-school hockey game tonight?
No Heiskanen for Dallas, right? He was put on the IR. He got hit by Mark Stone. So that's something maybe thought was a little bit dirty. He got tripped into him. I don't know what you want the guy to do there. So it is what it is there. But no Heiskanen, who's a very good defenseman there for the Dallas Stars. Has Vancouver righted the ship? We all know they have massive problems in the locker room, right? Either JT Miller or Elias Pettersson or both have to go. All right, this has been so weird. They just don't like each other. It affects the whole team or infects the entire team right there. So hard not to go with Dallas. You're paying a price of minus 170. The smarter play probably is on Vancouver in the plus 140. But, Joe, I'm not so sure they've cured their problems. All right, and Pettersson's not scoring. All right, JT Miller is at least putting up some points here. I'm going to have a hard time not going with Dallas. Also, I haven't done anything with this game yet. I'm probably going to leave it alone. It is sort of your game of the night here as far as what's going on here. So I'm probably leaving it alone for right now. But the Dallas Stars, even if things are going well for Vancouver, they're still the better team. I just don't want to lay 170.
Yeah, I think they have the rest advantage too, right? They've had a couple of nights off here, Vancouver on a road trip. It's kind of hard not to look at Dallas in some way, shape, or form here. That is going to be the game of the night. But you mentioned it also last night in overtime. Columbus deals Vegas a defeat there. Now Columbus has got to take on Utah tonight. It seems like we're getting nothing but Utah money in here. Why, I have no idea. But what do you? How do you approach this one?
Once again, I listen. Utah should be favored. 220 over anybody. Anybody. All right, so I can't bet Utah here. Listen, and we're all talking Utah, by the way. We're all wondering what the name is going to be, right? Was it the Mammoth, the Sasquatch? And by the way, I had no idea there was a mountain range named Sasquatch before this. I thought maybe that was a nickname for Sasquatch. Literally, that's not even a joke. I thought maybe it's a shortage of that, or the Utah Hockey Club, and now they're throwing out the Utah Outlaws, which I kind of like, by the way. I'd vote for the Outlaws. If you're not going to go the Outlaws, then I'd probably just go the Utah Hockey Club there. There's no way. I am not laying 220 with the Utah Hockey Club. I'm not saying they're bad. They're just not that much better than Columbus, but I get it. Columbus played last night. They won. I assume that it's not going to be Merzlikins in net. Tarasov is expected to play, and that's a problem. So I think the way you attack this game, by the way, and it's not a great parlay opportunity tonight, I don't think. Can we take Utah goal and a half? plus 114.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking as well. I wish we were getting a better price. I mean, I'd like plus 125, plus 130 here. But if I'm going to attack this game, which I probably will, it's the last game of the night here, I'll take the goal line there, plus 114, minus a goal and a half.
I would even look at maybe Utah's team total going up and over here, because that backup goalie is atrocious for Columbus. And how about it? We've got Colorado taking on St. Louis. I think the first meeting of the season between these two teams here, old rivals. I believe the Avs have pretty much dominated them over the last couple of seasons here. But I'm shocked this number is not higher, if we're being honest here with Colorado. What are you thinking?
I was thinking the same thing, by the way. All right. Why? What do they know that we don't? And the backup goalie's going for St. Louis.
Yeah.
All right, I'm on Colorado. Once again, goal line here. I think they'll score some goals. I like McKinnon for an anytime goal as well here, and Nikas to get more than a point. I think Nikas, he's got 2 points last couple of games here. He'll set up McKinnon for one of those goals. McKinnon anytime goal, Nikas 1.5 over, and Colorado wins the game.
Yeah, Colorado, my goodness. It feels like we're going to get some goals in this one, too. Maybe an over in this spot here tonight wouldn't be a bad play either. George, always a pleasure, man. It is good to see you here, as we're still a little over a week away from the big game, but a little something for everyone here with hockey. And don't forget, George, pitchers and catchers are reporting a couple of weeks here in my neck of the woods. So enjoy it, George. We'll talk to you again. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time, and I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because Scotty, he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
You know, they have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on a Friday, and we appreciate you stopping by as we're getting ready for a monster weekend in college hoops. Over 140 games tomorrow, and of course, a lot to be determined here as we're getting to that point of the calendar where we flip out of January. February will be here, and it's a race to March Madness from here on out. But we do have a handful of pretty good games tonight. We'll talk about some of those big games tomorrow coming up with the one and only, our good friend Colby Dant in the house here, ready to go for a small slate here tonight. We got a couple of games underway already. I don't know how somehow Princeton has managed to close the gap 75-70 and has a chance still to cover in this. I have no idea how that happened, but Butler and Georgetown just underway here. Georgetown kind of going through it, and Thad Matta and Butler, to me, they've been on the short end of the stick of some losses that probably should have been wins against some pretty good teams here. So don't know that I trust the offense of Georgetown. I thought getting 3.5 wasn't a bad play with Butler. What were you leaning towards on that one?
I went with the Hoyas just because they just played really good competition. Like you had that Ed Cooley game back in Providence where I know Providence not great this year, but that game was completely bonkers from a crowd point of view. And then they got drilled by Patino. So you knew that was just a tough spot. Yeah. I got him. I laid the points here. Butler has been like South Carolina in the SEC there where they're in every game. They just don't know how to close it out. So I went with the Hoyas. But Butler, I have taken Butler with the points a lot this year, and it's worked out.
So the big game tonight, Big Ten, of course, is Purdue at home. And anytime you have Purdue at home at the Maggie Arena, it's always a tough ask. And to ask Indiana, they're trying to get rid of Mike Woodson. Everyone hates him. This team they're just not very good here, and Purdue has kind of owned them. I don't think Indiana has won at the Mackey Arena since 2013. That's kind of dominant, if you ask me. Are they going to be dominated again by Purdue tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you wonder about the buy-in. And Purdue basically started this Indiana went and paid up in the offseason NIL wise because they saw their bitter rivals in the national championship say, we got to do something. But the thing you did is brought in a bunch of talent. You didn't change the coaching situation. I love those T-shirts going around saying, Mike Woodson, Google me, I lose. I think Purdue is the play. I know it's chalky as all can be. I feel like everyone I've talked to is be like, I got to hammer Purdue. And it's a rivalry game. Traditionally, I like the points in the rivalry game, but Painter is a guy that was never recruited by Indiana. He's had that chip on his shoulder forever, I feel like. So I'm going to lay the number and be on the chalky side of things. But yeah, kind of a fascinating game because if Woodson wins this somehow, you got to think you're not going to be able to can him after he beats the arch rival in their stadium.
They're already screaming for him, so I can't imagine another blowout here tonight. This kid, Brandon Smith, is no joke. The kid is All-American all the way over. No Zach Edey, no problem for him. We have another kind of big rivalry tonight, kind of under the radar, because I don't think people really understand what Kent State is and what Akron is. But they're only about, 15 minutes apart from one another here, and this has got a big history. These two schools don't like one another, except the Zips have been handling their business here. And they're getting 3.5 at Kent State? What gives in this one tonight?
Yeah, I love this. It's a game I want to watch most all day. They do hate each other. You saw 2 years ago after they won. One of the players had a video, like a selfie in the locker room, and they're all just talking trash, listening to music, talking trash about each player for Akron. Last year, Akron ends their season by a point in the MAC championship. So a lot of animosity here. I like Kent State to ruin this win streak by Akron here. I'm going to lay that number. They've won 8 straight, I believe. The Zips have. They got to go into Kent, where Kent's been all over the place. To tell you the truth, both these teams are kind of in a rebuild, but I think Kent has this one circled. Some of these teams, some of their starters were on the team last year when they lost by 1 in that championship game. Give me Kent State to get it done.
Liking Kent State to get it done. I was talking to the coach earlier too, and another MAC situation here tonight. And I don't think Marist gets enough credit for how good they have been here. They're taking on Siena here tonight in a kind of under the radar game, but I love these Friday games, Colby. So I want to get your thoughts on that game. And of course, we have games tomorrow that include, I don't know, Duke and North Carolina. That's always fun. Kentucky, Arkansas, where Cal gets to go back and get screamed at. I think this should be hilarious too. Not to mention, I think could be the game of the weekend is Florida taking on Tennessee, because Tennessee has not been the same since they went to Gainesville and Florida absolutely boat raced them. So we got plenty of big games coming up here tomorrow, as I'm being told. 9 minutes, 3 minutes, 30 seconds. But give me your thoughts quickly on this Siena and Marist game before we dive into these rivalries tomorrow.
Yeah, I love Siena here. The St. Bernards, Jerry Mack, the former Syracuse guard that I feel like was just such a clutch player there. Look, Marist is in first place in the MAAC, and they're only laying 5.5 against a Siena team that's been all over the place this year. But Jerry Mack in certain games has got his team up. I like the St. Bernards there plus the points, and I think it's worth a money line play of what is it, plus 200? I think I saw earlier today. You look at Siena. It's just the question of what Siena you're going to get. Jerry Mack in year one, they've beaten and hung with some decent teams. They've also had some bad losses, but I'll take a shot that they can stay in this game, especially when you see Marist. They're offensively challenged. They're a good defensive team, but I give me Siena. Let's go.
If they can hit some shots from outside, they're very much alive in this game here. All right, Colby, we'll talk to you when we get back. Game Time Decisions here on the Grid.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time, and I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
They have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Okay, good. Welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network on a Friday, as we do have one college basketball game just went final, 77-70. Yale remains undefeated in Ivy League play, handing Princeton another L here. We also have Butler and Georgetown going at it right now. Butler up 18-16, halfway through the first half. We've got much more coming up in college basketball tomorrow, over 140 games, ton of top 25 action, rivalries left and right. Let me ask you about other game tonight that I think is fascinating here. Colby Dant back with us. How about this Dayton-St. Louis game? Because, is Dayton not one of the most disappointing teams that we've seen this year? I don't know what we're going to get out of them on a night-to-night basis, but I know the Billikens finally seem to have figured some things out with Avia.
Yeah, I call it, Salt Frazier, they say, but yeah, Avia. Look, we knew it was only a matter of time. Schertz was a good coach at Indiana State, and they were banged up. They got Larry Hughes Jr., they got Jimerson, they got Isaiah Swope. I kind of buy into this St. Louis team as the season continues to roll. And on the other side of things, Dayton, I mean, remember they went out to Maui and they should have beat Carolina. It looked like they almost beat Iowa State, and you were convinced that this team was going to run through the A-10. They've kind of been a team that I can't trust, especially on the road. And I think a lot of it is the defense. Normally an Anthony Grant coach team has their defense playing at an elite level. They're 218th in defense right now. And that does not travel well on the road. They've been blown out at St. Bonaventure. They got blown out by George Mason. I'll take these Billikens that seem to be improving every single week.
I am with you, man. I think at home here, and Dayton is proven to be too unreliable for my taste. All right, tomorrow, Tobacco Road here, Duke versus North Carolina. I mean, they're acting like Hubert Davis is the problem, which is pretty funny. If you think it's hard to get rid of Mike Woodson, I can't wait to see how North Carolina is going to try to push out Hubert Davis. That should be pretty funny. But I got to tell you, no matter what else happens, UNC goes into Duke and wins. He just bought himself another 5-year deal here. What are you thinking, Colby?
I love the points. I mean, look, I know Carolina's been terrible this year. I mean, they lost to Stanford at home in that rich ACC rivalry. But this 13.5, I think I saw that number at. You have to just take Carolina. The history of this game, this is the best rivalry in the sport, maybe the best in all of sports, depending on who you ask. I just feel like they get up. They've had this one circled. Carolina's a veteran team too. It's a strange team that they haven't been that good this year because they have guys that have been a part of their program for years. I have to take the points. Cooper Flagg's never been a part of this rivalry. Same with a lot of those other freshmen. Yes, they're way better on paper, but I'll take the points all day here in this matchup in a rivalry game like this.
And what do you think? Calipari only won, 70, 80% of the games when he coached at Kentucky there. I mean, 430 and 110, I think was his record, or something obnoxious. So naturally, he's going to get booed when he takes Arkansas in the Rupp tomorrow, isn't he, Colby?
Oh, yeah. I remember he was complaining about when he took the job, I think at Arkansas, he was talking about it in his press conference that when he was walking his dogs, people are giving him a hard time. Well, they're going to give you more than a hard time from the dog walk today when you come in there, especially knowing that they're coming off one of their best wins of the season. They're number 12 in the nation. And look, I'm with you. He won him a national championship. He was great for a long amount of time there. It just didn't work out the past couple of years. But I'll take Arkansas on the points here. I think Kentucky is good, but I don't think they're as good necessarily as we think. So you're getting 10.5, I think it is. Give me the Razorbacks. This is a team that can stay within that number. I do think Kentucky probably wins the game, but 10.5 is too big of a number. I know Arkansas has been all over the place this year, but this is a game I think they get up for them. They're a talented team too, but they're just a little young.
I agree. I think that's going to be a fun one. And does Tennessee bounce back tomorrow against Florida?
I personally love Tennessee minus the point. I already bet this thing. Florida's the better team this year. I think Florida will go further in March, but this is one you can't lose back-to-back games at home, and especially the way Florida beat you down like 10, 15 days ago. I'm all over the Vols.
Yep. Love it. We got another hour of Game Time Decisions continuing. Appreciate it, Colby. Enjoy, my man. We'll be back after this.
this guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time. And I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because, he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
They have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network, off and running together another hour on this Friday here as we get ready to turn the page on January. Tomorrow, of course, February 1st. And boy, we are just a little over a week away from one final NFL game. We'll have much to talk about on that game coming up as the Eagles and the Chiefs get ready to do battle. We got over 140 college hoops games coming up tomorrow. Great rivalry games as we start the month of February. And, of course, we're out in Pebble Beach this weekend with the PGA Tour's biggest names. And, boy, it's getting pretty good. We're seeing some pretty good golf, and we've got some weather on the way in Pebble Beach. So it is that time of the show, folks. We welcome in our good friend, Mr. Golf himself, Brady Cannon, in the house here. And Brady, we weren't sure what we were going to get today with the wind and the rain. We weren't quite sure if it would affect guys, but we've got a 14 under with Sepp Straka leading the tournament right now. Back-to-back 65s. Couple of guys at 11, couple of guys at 10 and 9. There's a whole lot of big names still within about 4 or 5 strokes of the lead here.
No, you're exactly right, Joe. 30 guys. And I think that 14 is a little bit inflated. I kind of think the real lead here is 12. I think the number you want to be chasing right now is 12. I mean, for Straka to shoot 65 on back-to-back days is really impressive and probably playing a little bit above his head right now. 100 of his last golf holes played on the PGA Tour, 40 of them he's made birdie. That's pretty incredible. 40% birdie rate. So, I mean, it's got to slip here for a minute. And you talk about the weather coming in. We're supposed to have anywhere from 10 to 20 mile an hour winds in the Pebble Beach area on Saturday. Gusts up to 25 plus. No more Spyglass Hill. It's all Pebble from here on out on Saturday and Sunday. And, you know, outside of Straka, if you go back to 11 under par, you've got 30 guys. That's almost half the field. 30 guys between 7 under and 11 under. So, yeah, with the weather and the log jam at the top, we've got a lot of golf left here.
A ton of golf. Now, one name that I saw today, and I kicking myself going, why? How did I not remember Tony Finau? Because he was at a pretty big number to begin with as well. He certainly, horses for courses here. Very familiar there. What is he, 67, very steady in a top 5, top 6 spot here heading into the weekend. Where do you go from here? Obviously, Scotty Scheffler a little bit further down, but there's Rory hanging out. So how do you approach Saturday and Sunday here if you haven't jumped in already in this tournament?
Yeah, from a betting perspective, I'm not sure I want to dive in on any of the guys at 7 under. I'd probably start at 8, where you find Rory. I think Scotty's at 7, but I think he's only 12-1. He's like the second favorite. You've got Sepp Straka a little less than 3-1, and Scheffler 7 shots off that lead is I think the second choice, or actually he's about the third or fourth choice, but about 12-1. Just too short for me with that, being that far back. I'd probably look at the 8s. You've got Rory in there. You've got Patrick Cantlay lurking, who's playing very, very well. And the formula here, Joe. Cantlay is striking the ball extremely well, but he can't make a putt. So if his putter turns around, and he's typically a very good putter on Poana, if his putter turns around, I think he's a real factor here. And the wind is supposed to blow. Tony Finau, who you mentioned, has traditionally been a very good wind player. He's had very good British Open success. He hails from Utah, where you certainly get some winds ripping around in that part of the country. So I think he'll be able to manage the wind. The problem I have with Finau is he's kind of been relying on the putter. 2 straight days he's been putting lights out, and that's bound to escape him over the course of 4 days. So you don't know if he can really sustain what he's doing right now. I think Cam Davis is pretty live at 16-1. Guy's playing really well and doing everything well. He's 13th in this field on approach, 5th in greens in regulation, and he hasn't even been putting well. He's 44th. He's middle of the pack with the putter. So if his putter all of a sudden heats up for a day and a half or so, he's going to be in the thick of it. I think Tom Kim is a guy to take a look at. I'm actually on Tom Kim pre-tournament. Been really good off the tee, great scrambler, great with the putter, and not so good on approach, but that's really the strength of his game. So if the strength of his game shows up, he ought to be there. Victor Hovland, another guy I'm on pre-tournament, has been kind of a surprise. His game's really been in the tank, but he's done very well, and the stats are solid. You can find him at 22-1. So Davis, Tom Kim, and Victor Hovland and Patrick Cantlay, I think might be 4 guys that I would take a look at right now. And maybe you play them for finish positions too, like a top 10 or something like that. Obviously, you're not going to get the price, but I think these guys have a very good chance of finishing top 10, if not even better.
So I'm laughing as I'm looking today at the leaderboard. Another guy that shoots 65 is the same guy that threw up all over himself at the Farmers last week to your boy Harris English. And here's Novak, who shoots 65. Oh, yeah. Not for nothing, Brady. I'm looking to fade him on a Saturday and Sunday event. I saw what kind of train wreck he is down the stretch there, and here he is, top 5. I give him credit. But it would feel like I'm going to search out some matchups for Novak and go the other way, because come Sunday, if he's in striking position, can't trust him to make a putt, man. Just can't do it.
I would agree with you. And it's going to help him in the long haul, being in the final pairing there with Harris English and building up that scar tissue. He's a tremendous ball striker. That's the strength of his game. He can nail the irons, but you're telling me Andrew Novak standing over a 6-foot putt, with Scotty Scheffler and Rory breathing down his neck. No. So he's playing even against a tougher field here this week. All the stars are out here this week. So good for him for putting himself in position, but I'm with you. I looked at him before I came on the show. I said, okay, here's a guy that's flashing again, but no, against this field, I'd probably want like 50-1 rather than 28 where he's trading right now.
I agree. 2 other names, they're there, but, do they have one of these 64, 65s in them? Colin Morikawa and JT both at 8 under par here. It feels like they're getting through, but can they go low tomorrow to put themselves in a spot on Sunday?
Yeah, and the answer is yes, they can go low. You know, both of these guys can really light it up. They just have to get hot. Morikawa struggled a little bit in the back nine on Thursday at Spyglass. He found his game today at Pebble. JT was just absolutely all over the place today, Joe. He goes from round one. In round one on Thursday, Thomas was number one in the field in greens and regulation and number one in the field on strokes gained approach. Today, he was 77th and 74th, almost dead last in both those categories. He chipped in on 18 for Eagle to get to 8 under par. So I'm not going to count those guys out, but I really don't want to bet on them at a pretty short price, just for as erratic as they've been, especially Thomas.
And not for nothing, but the AARP on site with Justin Rose again. He just won't go away, Brady. He won't go away. It's the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen, but plenty of golf left to go. Brady Cannon, always a pleasure, my man. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Friday as we get ready to say goodbye to January of 2025. February right around the corner, a huge slate in college basketball tomorrow as it is the calm before the storm here. We're just a little over a week away from the final NFL game of the season in New Orleans with the Eagles getting ready to take on the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, it just never ends with the Chiefs. Lot throughout the week to cover when it comes to this big game. But got a couple of big games coming up here tonight. We've got the other three big conferences in. We got little college hoops tonight. We got NBA. We got NHL. And, of course, we got our good friend, Mr. Opposite Pick, Scotty Wetzel, in the house here tonight. Going to take the baton here coming up top of the hour for a little in-game live. But let's start in college hoops here because most everything is off and running. We got two games coming up. Purdue is one of those games, but the other one is the game that you picked here. Marist taking on Siena tonight. What are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, who needs Duke in North Carolina tomorrow or John Calipari going back to Kentucky when you could be betting on Marist and Siena, right? What is that, you say, Scott? Marist, they're the class of the MAC, the MAAC, right? The Red Foxes have won 11 of 12. They're in first place. They've dominated everybody. Siena, meanwhile, is 9-11, 4-5 in conference play. They're only 6-2, Joe, on the road against Division I teams. And I got the home team in Marist laying only 5.5. So I don't know. What am I missing here? They're red hot. They're the best team in the conference. So if you needed some college basketball juice tonight, I'm going to lay you off the Purdue game. Give me Marist. The Red Foxes laying 5.5 against Siena. So, and it is a great card tomorrow, right? So that's why I say if you need a little nibble in college basketball, I am curious, Joe, just reading about Pitino telling the Kentucky fans about how they should be cheering Calipari when he returns tomorrow night for the first time. But I was thinking to myself, they were booing him last year when he was the head coach. If they're booing him now when he's not the head coach, poor Calipari can't win for losing. You booed me when I am your head coach. Now you're going to boo me again when I'm not your head coach. But I am curious. That should be a lot of fun tomorrow night with that game.
The number is laughable, Scotty. I mean, the dude was 410 and 123 from 2009 to 20. 410 and 123, got a national championship. So what are you going to do? I'm going to boo the guy as if he was the worst head coach that you've ever gotten. It's just some of these schools, the unrealistic expectations is just unbelievable. And listen, North Carolina is positioning themselves. Listen, can North Carolina go to Duke and win that game tomorrow? Yeah, okay. Do I think they will? Absolutely not. But now Hubert Davis is the problem, Scotty? I mean, that's what we're talking about with these fan bases here.
Joe, they were booing UConn the other night. I had a buddy that went to the game, and he said they're actually booing UConn second half because they struggled against, I think it was Butler or Xavier, one of the two, right? I mean, it's just your two-time defending champs are getting booed on their own home court. These fans are just
unreal.
Nuts. They're just nuts. They think they should win every single game, every single year. It's amazing. What's next? Kansas City fans booing the Chiefs next season if they lose the Super Bowl?
Yeah, well, if Bill Self doesn't win the national title, they'll get him out of Kansas. I mean, it's like it makes me laugh here. Pretty good card in the association here tonight. And I didn't quite understand this one, but Toronto, the Raptors, red hot. They've won 5 in a row, but they're healthy, Scott. That's the whole thing is like we're running out of time to get the value on Toronto before the market adjusts to it. It was 4.5. The Bulls, I don't trust the Bulls on the road. What are we doing in this game?
Yeah, you got to go Toronto, right? 5 in a row, 7-1, straight up and against the spread. This is their best streak in over 2 seasons, Joe. And I will say this about Toronto. As bad as they were before this streak, they were covering games. They really were. Now, they were monster underdogs, but they were one of the better, against the spread teams in the NBA. Now they've actually won some of these games. They had a back-to-back at Atlanta. They swept that series, so that they're playing good ball. It's only 4.5, depending on where you do your shopping. You said a Bulls 2-7 against the spread their last 9. Every once in a while, Chicago comes up with this performance that looks like they're finally going to turn things around, and then they'll lay an egg like they did against the Celtics the other day. So give me Toronto at home, laying a small number for sure.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I love that they're healthy, and this is a good team here. Also, not a good team. The Denver Nuggets, as of late, going for a potential fourth straight loss, taking on the, 4 wins in a row for the Sixers here, getting 9.5. What are we doing in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go over. I can't lay the 9.5, Joe. You said they're not playing that good. They lost the other night to the Knicks. I do expect a bounce back effort, but to win by 10 on the road against all of a sudden a decent Philadelphia team, can't do that. Let's go with the over 233.5. If they're on their A game, Denver's a monster over team, 30-17 last 47, 8-4 their last 12. Philadelphia 6-1 over their last 7 at home. So with Philadelphia playing better, they're going to score. Denver playing, in a not must win, but in a bounce back spot, right? They don't want to lose 4 in a row. Yep. I think we get to 234. It's a big number. It is, but 125, 115, 125, 110. It's going to get the job done. Someone's going to have to score 120. I think Denver does.
I agree with you. I love that look there. Also, I don't get, why are we betting against Milwaukee coming off a terrible loss against Portland? Now a team that they've never had any problem beating in San Antonio, and the number is what, 2, Scotty? I don't understand this line either.
Makes no sense, right? Bucks 9-3 against 9-3 straight up. You said off a bad performance. We look for these teams that are in bounce back spots, like the Lakers were last night against Washington. 6-2 against the spread run. Spurs 3-10 against the spread at home. Only 3-8 straight up and against the spread their last 11. And you got Wembanyama crying to the officials. Give me the Bucks. He's not going to get any breaks tonight from the officials.
Yeah. I wouldn't even, Dad, we're taking a look at the team total over as well. We got a couple more games and best bets we'll go over with Scott. And Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time, and I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because Scotty, he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
They have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Scotty Wetzel. He'll be getting ready to take over in-game live coming up top of the hour. Plenty of games on the slate here tonight. We'll finish up the NBA and then get some of your thoughts on the NHL slate here, Scott, and I can't for the life of me figure out the Phoenix Suns, man. I every time I think they're going to get blown out, they win. Every time I think they win, they're going to get blown out. I'm even more clueless with Golden State. So point me in the right direction of this game. What are we looking at?
That's exactly what I was going to say, Joe, about Golden State for me. You know, I bet on them. They lose. I think they're going to get crushed last time out against OKC. They win outright. I bet them the other day against Boston, getting 10. They got smothered by 40. I must say, I did watch that game, a decent amount of that game. And boy, Steph was looking, I know he's banged up a little bit. He missed a game, so it looks like he's got a legitimate injury. But man, he's looking slow. He's looking like a lot, 21 points he had.
Yep.
He normally gets that in a half. So I'm going to go Phoenix. You're right. The Heckle and Jekyll Suns, man. But they are 8-3 their last 11. Most of that at home, but still they turn things around here a little bit. We got Devin Booker, who's crying about not being on the All-Star team. So maybe, just maybe, that motivates him for a performance tonight. They want to play Devin Booker point totals. Golden State's won their last 2, but well, you look at their starting lineup, it just I'm still looking for Klay Thompson. There's no Draymond Green. He's out hurt. Bunch of guys you never heard of before. Buddy Hield's doing nothing for them. So I give me the Suns. I think there's a reason why they're favorites, laying 1.5 on the road.
Yeah, I'm shocked you didn't pick the Celtics and lay the double digits, because that's always a great bet anytime the Celtics are double-digit favorites. Yeah. No Zion, by the way. He's been ruled out because in the middle of a 4-game losing streak, why would you want your best player available to you, Scotty, right? It makes no sense, New Orleans Jets. Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, very appreciative. Let's talk about NHL here tonight. Nashville-Buffalo was a game that we looked at. Two teams trying to, claw their way up the standings here. What are we thinking in this one? Pretty much a pick-em price.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to go with the over. I have a general philosophy. No one plays defense on Fridays and Saturdays. So let's go over here. Buffalo 15-6 over their last 21 at home, including 6-1 their last 7. I got Vancouver that's 5-2 over their last 7 on the overall as well. So, 7 goals, that's generally the number, 6.5. Fun atmosphere. Let's I think we can get a 4-3, 5-3 type of game. So let's go over 6.5 Nashville-Buffalo.
Now, all right, let's talk about that Vancouver team on the road again, taking on Dallas here tonight. Lower total, 5.5. Ottinger in goal. Demko feels like, first 1 to 2 wins, but what do you think we're going to get here?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Dallas owes me, too, because I had them with the under against Vegas the other night, and the game went over 4-3. So let's go under 5.5 here. Series 3-1 under their last 4, pretty good. Vancouver 7-4 under their last 11, pretty good. And then we got Dallas 8-3 under their last 11, pretty darn good. And Dallas has allowed the fewest goals in the Western Conference, only 123, which is why they're a strong under team. So hopefully Demko plays. If so, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2 at best. Let's go under.
Why not? I don't hate that at all. And then, of course, that Columbus team, pesky last night to Vegas, and now they got to take on Utah here. So do we trust Utah laying minus 220? Scott, who is Utah to be laying 220 against anybody?
Well, there you go, Joe. That's exactly it. Well, talk about strange lines. Now, hockey, whenever you see a goofy line, you generally know the backup goaltender is going to play, right? So let's just say it is the backup goaltender for Columbus. He's actually not too bad. But, Columbus, they're 9-3 their last 12, Joe. They've had a point in 15 of their last 19 games, including 13 wins. They're 6-2 at Utah/Arizona, and Utah is only 4-13 their last 17 at home, and only 5-13 their last 18 overall. Everything points to Columbus here, and yet Utah is a 2-1 favorite. I know this has got sucker written all over it. I know. But give me Columbus plus the 175. I'm going to bite.
Yeah. This guy, I am with you, man. Makes absolutely zero sense here. But I do think opportunity presents itself here tonight, and you're coming up top of the hour You will follow along with all of these games, no doubt. Couple of live betting opportunities coming your way. We appreciate it as always, Scotty. We'll see you shortly as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time, and I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
You know, they have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. A very happy Friday to you. It is Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we are off and running in a 7-game NBA slate here tonight. Right now, Pistons trailing the Dallas Mavericks. Klay Thompson coming out firing, 10 points already in the first quarter, as is Cade Cunningham, who will be heading as a starter to the All-Star game coming up, as he was announced. But the Mavericks, boy, they just won't go away here. They are trying to do everything in their power with a little duct tape and Elmer's glue to try and piece together enough wins and enough guys to be able to overcome the loss of Derek Lively for the season. Not to mention, they're hoping to get Luka Doncic back and maybe hold down the fort without Kyrie falling to pieces here. So far, so good here, as there are a couple of games over 500, 26-22, taking on the Detroit Pistons, whose, big man Isaiah Stewart was supposed to have his bobblehead tonight. Well, it is bobblehead night in Detroit for Isaiah Stewart. The problem is he's not there. Why? Because he picked up another flagrant foul last game and the NBA suspended him. How bad is that, where you actually get suspended on your own bobblehead night? You can't even be there. Unbelievable. Leave it to the Detroit Pistons here, who are trailing the Dallas Mavericks here as they are coming to a close in the first quarter. Also, the Hornets giving the Clippers all they can handle right now. 23 apiece there. They, too, are coming to the end of the first quarter. We are getting ready, tip in Toronto, though, as the red-hot Toronto Raptors taking on the Chicago Bulls. And then, of course, the Nuggets taking on the 76ers in a game that should also, well, the Nuggets are going through it here. And I guess that should be, I don't know that we should all be surprised. I mean, the Nuggets weren't going to run the table on the entire year. I think the depth issues are always going to be a little concerning here for the Denver Nuggets. The 76ers have all sorts of injuries, and we know this. Who's going to be available for the 76ers? Well, we know Caleb Martin is out. We know Embiid is gone. We know Paul George is not going to be there. So it's Maxey and Eric Gordon have actually done a pretty good job for this team on their 4-game winning streak. And the Nuggets, well, I mean, they're trying to get it done here. They've had a really good run early in the season, the champs, but could tonight and the 9.5 points be just a bit too much here? I think if you like the 76ers, I would look to back them early. The Denver Nuggets have been a terrible first half, very slow starting team all year long, and then they usually pick it up in the second half. If the Sixers aren't going to be covering early, they're probably not going to be covering late in this game. So maybe a Sixers early on with a possible jump in for the Nuggets coming up a little bit later. Still a couple of other games coming up. Top of the hour, Celtics now up to a 12-point favorite as Zion Williams will not be in the lineup there for the Pelicans tonight. Of course not. Why would he be? But the Celtics, they got a couple of very interesting games coming up here. I believe Cleveland is coming up on tap for them. I do think they've also got Philadelphia coming. But when you look at, and I'm only seeing Sam Hauser, even he's active. So not a lot of injury concerns on the Celtics, but no Zion, no Jordan Hawkins, no DeJounte Murray is playing for New Orleans tonight. No Herbert Jones, no Brandon Ingram. Okay, so it's basically DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum is your only chance at doing. The problem is you can't bet the Celtics double digits. I don't care who they're playing. They cannot be trusted to win by margin in this spot. I am looking forward to the Bucks and the Spurs. This feels like the trap line of the night as the Bucks on the road here, coming off a terrible second half against Portland, in which they ended up losing and getting embarrassed there. However, looking at the injury report, Lillard is a go, AJ Green's a go. Bobby Portis is the only guy that won't be playing for the Bucks, and that is a big loss for them. However, San Antonio, for the most part, looks like they are healthy and will have their full complement. This feels even more so than maybe the Bucks on the side. It feels like a over game. 237 right now is where that total is sitting. I took the Milwaukee Bucks team total over 117.5. I do think that has gone up as well, but I can see the Bucks getting into the 120s in this game all day long. We know San Antonio will not, under any circumstances, be interested in playing a lick of defense. So I do think an over would not be a bad look in that one here. Also, we've got plenty going on. College hoops. Butler and Georgetown getting ready to start the second half, 37-36. Can Georgetown, I don't know, hold on to a win here? Because it's been rough sledding for them, to say the least. And in a battle of Ohio, I can't even believe it. We're not talking Ohio State here. We're talking Akron and Kent State. How about Akron as a 3.5-point dog? 31-17. They are boat racing Kent State right now. Yikes. Still the game of the night coming up here between, and I don't know how much of a game this is going to be, with Purdue laying 12 points against Indiana. But this could be the end of the Mike Woodson era in Indiana. If they get blown out at Mackey Arena, yeesh, don't think great things are coming by any stretch there. However, we do have some hockey games that are going to be of note here. And if I understand, I believe our good friend Dave Sharapan has been called to duty. Might have to play a little goalie here tonight, I understand, Dave. Is that correct? I think Ottinger needs a backup, and from what I understand, you already have the uniform. You're on your way there to back him up here tonight.
Joe, I stopped blocking shots a long time ago. I ain't putting that goalie equipment on. I never did it before. I'm a right wing by trade. I'll play center. I back check, but I don't block shots. I ain't going in. Although it would be pretty cool to be like the Zamboni guy, where you're there and they're like, hey, come out and sit on the bench or wear the equipment, get the uniform. You get to keep it after the game. That would be a deal. I would do that. But man, I don't know, Joe. I would be scared to death the way these sticks are now. Everybody's got almost 100-mile-an-hour slap shot. The equipment's good. Joe, I'm afraid, like, if I go down, I don't know if I get back up. It might be one of those, like, listen, ref, blow the whistle, because I don't know if I'm getting back up.
No. I did that one year here at the Panthers Stadium where they put me in a fat suit and rolled me out in the middle of the ice on the intermission when I was doing morning radio down here moons ago. And once I got Dave, I couldn't get up. It was like a beached whale, dude. I just kept rolling around. I couldn't get up. It was an absolute mess. I think somebody took a slap shot with me and scored. It was a very embarrassing effort across the board there. But you think you can walk on that ice? Think again, man. That's not an easy thing to do if you're not used to it.
No, strictly with skates for me.
Yes.
Seen many times people trying, before games to, shuffle out there to do the shot in between periods.
Yes.
Or even seen people fall in the national anthem, getting out there, just take a couple steps off the rubber on the side, stand still, don't move, sing, and get off the ice. So, we'll talk about the games when we come back. But man, there's a lot of good games.
I want to have a race on the ice with you. Game Time Decisions will be back after this here on the Grid.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time, and I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
They have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we're getting ready coming up here in just about 15 minutes. In-game live will take center stage here on the grid as we've got some great NBA games getting ready to start here. A couple of games underway already. We've got some college basketball games of interest getting ready for a huge weekend. And we got some NHL games that are off and running and some pretty good ones, too. We already have 3 goals. Dave Sharapan, who will join Scotty Wetzel at the top of the hour here for In-Game Live. 2-1, Buffalo on top of Nashville already. We're getting ready for Vancouver and Dallas. So you're wearing the uni, man. And I was just asking you off air. Dallas feels like the pick, except why is this number so low at minus 1.6? It feels like it should be a higher number, no?
Vancouver on a 3-game winning streak, and I don't want to say like righted themselves because they were a rudderless ship there for a little bit, like just really bad games, a lot of stuff coming out of the locker room, and I think it might be built into the line a little bit. Now, Vegas and Dallas played a couple games back-to-back that looked like the Western Conference Finals. I mean, 2 games, 4-3, both overtime games, or the overtime game in Vegas. It was the end of the game in Dallas. I don't want to bet against Audiger tonight. I really don't. I like Dallas to score a minimum of 3 goals, likely more, so maybe a Dallas team total if you're not comfortable laying it. Some people might use them on a puck line, maybe them in regulation, something like that. To cheapen the price or even get you a plus. But yeah, Dallas is definitely one of the best teams in hockey, and Vancouver right now, you may be catching them at the best time if you're taking Vancouver, but I like Dallas, Joe.
You like Dallas in this one here tonight. Interesting. Also, I'm seeing Dallas in regulation, Dave, minus 105, minus 110.
Yeah.
I mean, can you take that in the regulation as well as maybe the Utah Hockey Club instead of laying that? Because there's no way we can back Columbus tonight, right? Given the fact that if my number is correct, Columbus is 0-7 in the second of back-to-backs so far this year.
And that's built into that line. Yeah. That's a scary
regulation.
Now, Columbus looked great. They played a great road game last night against Vegas. That stat, going to Utah and winning, this is a unique thing, right? The first time Utah's been in the league. So the Vegas-Utah trip or the Colorado-Utah-Vegas trip, the mountain trip that's like the Western Canada swing or the California swing, used to be down to Arizona. Now you catch a team on a back end of a back-to-back in Utah. So, yeah, Utah's the side. The price is not comfortable. It's a very uncomfortable lay. I don't know. Maybe find a way to do it, in regulation. But it's going to be a sweat. Columbus is one of the best teams in the league against the money line, like on the money line. They're literally one of the best, top 3 or 4, I think. We talked about it today with Carver on the hockey show. The game that's going on right now has the worst team against on the money line and the second worst team on the money line. Nashville's the worst. Buffalo's second. Expect nothing but fireworks in the game. We've got 2-1 so far. The in-game total's 8.5. That's a little high. I think 8 might be the number. The game finishes 5-3. Yeah, I think 5-3 is a bargain. I mean, it's minus 110. So I think under 8.5 if you need an in-game play.
The late game, I think, might be some fireworks as well, as you've got St. Louis, who's lost, 3 in a row, taking on Colorado, who is basically, once again, Colorado here. It's been up to, what are we up to now, 6? It feels like we should be able to get some goals in this one. Backup goalie, too, I think, here tonight. So what are we thinking with Colorado?
I don't think you should lay it. I kind of like St. Louis a little bit. Plus money. You catch the Avalanche on a losing streak. Them at home, usually a bet on, but not at that price for me. Right now, I think it's St. Louis. It's going to be close. This isn't one of those 6-1 games. So I think you'll be in it. If you bet St. Louis, they score first, take a plus on Colorado, sit back, enjoy your Friday night. I don't know, Joe, you think the game plays to the over or to the under?
I could see goals here, man. What I mean? I could see us getting, Colorado, I think, can get us, 4 goals in this one. And can St. Louis, it's kind of hard to believe these teams have not faced each other yet this year. I think it's the first time they've played one another here. But why not? Who's in goal? Binnington? Who's going tonight for them in St. Louis?
I don't have it.
I'm trying to. It was
Blackwood.
Hoffer and Blackwood.
Right. Yeah, Blackwood confirmed. Okay.
So it's and Hoffer. So you've got backup goalies for St. Louis. So heck, we can get 4 or 5 goals from Colorado. No, wouldn't shock me at all in a 5-2 game.
Yeah, I would think so. I got to ask you about the NBA. The Celtics are playing at the Pelicans. And the Celtics are 6-25-1 after they cover a spread. They just destroyed Chicago at home. They're going to the Pelicans, laying a gigantic number. You can't possibly say you want the Pelicans, do you? I don't only want the Pelicans.
No.
I think I want the points.
I would go team total Celtics up and over in this spot here. Listen, you've got no Zion, you got no Brandon Ingram, so you're basically going to have McCollum, and that's it. And what else? Who else are you going to have to be able to score enough points here? It feels like Boston could run away with this one early and often. I can't. But who wants to lay double digits with a team like Boston, who may just be happy to win by 2 and have to come from behind? It's just the most infuriating team. No, not more infuriating than the Phoenix damn Suns in your backyard. We'll get Dave's thoughts on that late game when Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time, and I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because Scotty, he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
They have a lot of hopes, and they thought last year they were turning the corner. Even early this year, they start turning the corner, and then you lose 13 games in a row.
Edmonton chipped away, got a late goal, won the game 4-3. I felt like they dominated the third period. They moved the puck on that power play. It was an exceptional hockey game. It went over the total.
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we look to wrap up this edition. Dave Sharapan here. He is getting ready. He'll join Scotty Wetzel for In-Game Live. They will have you covered with all the action here tonight. And Dave, I talked to you last night. I forgot to ask you, how did it go with the unveiling of the craziness at the Superbook in Vegas, with the unveiling of the 98 pages of props that came out? And some of them I've been going through them all day, and I'm laughing at some of the things that are coming out here. But hey, we got a week to go over and try to figure out the mix and match and have some fun with these prop bets. And there are a ton of them, man.
Yeah, they got creative. That's dinner plans tonight. Like I already said, to go through after we do the show, hand it off to Morency and Cam, grab a sandwich and sit down and just kind of go through the fun ones. I love the cross-sport stuff. I love those.
I'm with
guys, receptions, rushing yards, receiving yards. I mean, those are all kind of cut and dry. And I'll see based on, the group of people that were there last night, they fired away. They made some plays, and there was a lot of money spent. And Murray said that, he anticipates it being about 60% of the handle on the Super Bowl will be on the props. That's a lot. Over half then versus the game. So there's a market for it. But Joe, to be perfectly honest, the market's changed. Like a lot of that stuff was out. So I like to look at the stuff that they did unique and then, kind of go from there and see if you can find
It's
any
the fun ones.
Loopholes. Yeah,
It's the fun
I don't
ones.
know how much of an edge you're going to have now betting on it with everyone having all the same stuff. So we'll see. But
I will say this. Couple of hockey games that day. I believe there's 3 NBA games on tap there. There's the Waste Management Open, the golf tournament on it. So there is a lot of cross-sport opportunities to include in there, which I think, to me, is the fun part of that, is being able to encompass all of it.
And the fun part for them is they involve everybody. So, like, the golf guy has an opinion. Sherman has an opinion about the golf stuff. So it's a good number. And it's fun, the back and forth, to try to find one or two that you really want to play, and then find a mess of them that you maybe want to play, and then think about it all weekend, and then maybe go and play it, and then come back, think about it some more, go through the papers. I still love the paper, Joe. I still love scrolling all these props on the phones and on the apps. Joe, my eyes hurt. I can't find one. If you don't actually mark it right then and you scroll, you can't find it again. I mean, the menus are okay, but man, it makes it tough. I like it when they're on the paper.
Yeah, you got to get the pencil behind the ear, man. You know what I mean? You got to go. You're shuffling through. There you see. That's exactly it. Going old school there. I love it. All right, Dave, get out of here. Scotty Wetzel's already screaming and yelling, and nobody's helping him here as you guys get ready to embark on another night of In-Game Live. And we do have some good ones here. NHL as well as NBA, college basketball going on right now. We are getting ready at the top of the hour. 2 more NBA games, including the Milwaukee Bucks and the San Antonio Spurs, as well as the Boston Celtics taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, no Zion. That was announced earlier here, but we already watched this game, by the way, just earlier this month, January 8th. We saw the Bucks handle San Antonio 121-105, and now we've got a team in the Bucks who are 2-10, 2-8 rather, in their last 10, and one of the only wins they've had recently was the one that they had in Paris when they beat the Indiana Pacers in that first of a back-to-back there. So it's not been great for them. I do think the Bucks, coming off a loss, provide some value. I am starting to see the line move a little bit. It was as low as 2. I'm starting to see 2.5 now. So maybe a little bit of Milwaukee love hitting the marketplace now. And then, of course, I'm going to go with Phoenix to bounce back here against the Golden State Warriors, who have all sorts of issues here tonight. That'll be your late game, but you don't have to go anywhere. We have got you covered. In-game live coming up here in just a minute. Game Time Decisions. Well, we'll be back tomorrow here. Enjoy the night. Cash those tickets. We'll see you again soon here on the Grid.